Um, yeah, hi everyone watching this. This voice you can hear at the moment is Richard. I'm a neuropsychologist. Been working with Marc, that you can see on the screen here, and also Jane, occupational therapist. Yeah, we're just going to say a little bit about Marc's return to work, what the experience was like, and his tips coming away from that. So I'm just going to pass over to Marc and Jane now, just to say a little bit about the job, what it was, and how it came about in the first place.
Okay, great. So let's go back to that very beginning when we started off having conversations, didn't we, about what kind of work might be good to try and any ideas. And then maybe if you could talk through how you ended up where you did. What was the first thing that happened?
It was when we sat down at that coffee table outside the front. And we spoke to that guy who looked like he was foreign, but he wasn't. Was he? What was his name? I think his name was
Jason.
Jason, that's it. There you go. So yeah, we sat down and spoke to him, and actually felt more confident in the fact that he spoke to us, because the way he was so open with it and invited me through to the kitchen and said, you know, you could get along making some baguettes, and we looked at that like a simple task to do, which I thought I'd be able to do like easily, which I didn't do as easily, because then I started working in the main kitchen. But then once I knew what I was doing in the main kitchen, I was able to just go to work and know what I needed to do rather than asking what I had to do.
Yeah. So that very first meeting was very organic, off the cuff. We didn't really plan for it, but we just thought, well, let's just try. There's a garden centre close to where you live. Yeah. They have a cafe. You've done work making sandwiches before. Yeah. You've done hospitality things. We thought maybe a bit of voluntary work or a few hours. We didn't really know, did we?
No.
And asked to speak to the manager, and he came out, was very friendly, saw us to a table. We got some drinks given. That was a highlight. Yeah. And then he quickly joined and just wanted to know your story. And I think that for me was really great to see how this was somebody that you'd never met before, and you were able to give your story. It was obviously a bit nerve-wracking, but I think we did that together, and he was quickly able then to quickly see kind of who you were, and he really wanted to try and help and support, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He did a good job at it as well, to be fair, which is a bit strange as to why he got the sack pretty shortly after that. But,
well, he was a nice skip over that.
We'll skip over that part, yeah.
But yeah, he kind of created a place for you to start off. And so the opportunity came about. It was have a go. Let's take things slow. Let's evaluate. And actually then the role changed as you went, didn't it? So it started off being quite low key, maybe making sandwiches, and then you ended up in the main kitchen. What was your role there?
I was just making, in the end, full English breakfast was all like down to me, which was nice to be able to have and know what I needed to do. And when I got into a routine of it, I was okay with it. But when it got to like 38, 39 breakfasts, I was panicking a bit, you know, because it was like you start to realise the stress of the kitchen then.
Yeah.
And why everybody says the kitchen is the hardest place to work, and that's probably why, because mentally there's a lot to think about. And I was quite amazed that I managed to think of all that stuff and do it, really, you know. So even Chris, the guy that came on, helped me out. He then said to me about how many breakfasts I'd done and managed to serve out that day. And he said it was impressive as well, which was nice to hear. Yeah. So it's just good to be able to get back to something that when you're there and you're doing it, you feel like you're making a difference and helping out. Yeah. It's nice to be able to do that, rather than not knowing what to do all the time. It was a bit like I never knew where I was or what I was supposed to be doing, so I was always asking people. And the ones I knew, that was a lot much more of a comfortable feeling. Like.
And actually, that phrase you just used, wanting to make a difference, was something that really came out in therapy sessions as a team, wasn't it? Of of you wanting to get to that stage of contributing, giving back, going out, doing, being productive, and that kind of drove the trying to find somewhere that was a good fit for you. And so being able to go out and then come back and reflect and share your experience with your parents, I think was really, they were clearly excited as well.
Yeah. They was happy for me doing it, you know. And there was, when they went in and used to see me working in the kitchen, they was waiting in the queue to like order food themselves, and you know, I'd see my mum's face smiling at me, and it was nice to see, you know, really nice to see that. And my dad, you know, he was proud of me and taking me into work and picking me up, and
yeah. So it's more than the paycheck, isn't it? It's a lot that went into it that was helpful.
Yeah.
So I wonder if
before we move on a little bit, I was also thinking about before you started work, the build up to that, and you hadn't worked, you know, for a long time, you know, before your accident was the last time. What was that? What was that like for you, thinking about going back to work, and how did you feel?
It was nerve-wracking, like big time, really nerve-wracking, because I wanted to be there making a difference, but then going there and not really knowing where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing was more than nerve-wracking. You know, I was like, I didn't feel like I was helping out at all. I felt like I was giving someone a job, trying to make them find me a job, you know. So it was, but.
And if you think about some of the things that you were working on at the time, so your memory, so just be able to go in and remember a process. You weren't quite sure how you cope and manage. And then what about your speaking with others?
Yeah, I was nervous about that because I was definitely stuttering my words a lot more than I am now. But when you're doing that in a workplace, it just holds you back from doing what you want to do and saying what you want to say. It holds you back because once you start doing that, you're almost like embarrassed by it as well. So like you're going around in circles with the same word, and it's like, oh god. And every time I done it, I was really like not disappointed, but I was upset a bit with myself because I was like, I felt like I was better than that. Like definitely.
And we said that actually going out and having regular work gave you regular practice.
Yeah, more conversations to have. And
yeah.
So in the long run, it definitely helped me out.
Yeah. Should we move on to some of the things that stuck out as like tips that others might find helpful?
Yeah.
So remind ourselves what things were helpful. So we started off with what's of interest to you, didn't we? Kind of looking at previous work history, what you've done, what you enjoy. And within the therapy sessions, you were loving doing lots of cooking, weren't you?
Yeah.
And so that was, we didn't just randomly pluck garden centre. It was kind of, there were lots of things leading towards a few options that we narrowed down. Yeah. Some didn't get back to us, so it was just trying to see what matched your strengths and your interests really, and then starting with small steps, you've said as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like not chucking yourself in thinking you know exactly what you need to do, because you can't walk into a workplace. That was hard. Walk into a workplace. You can't do that and then expect to know what you're doing, because once I got into the routine of it, that was what made it easier. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and like, you do the same thing every day then, you know. So it was once I knew that, and I wasn't asking people what to do, I felt like I was doing the job properly. I was actually there to help out, you know, which is good.
And what did you do with your manager that was helpful, that I think was great with Chris? So you set up kind of regular times, didn't you, after a shift to debrief, or or if things got pressured, you had kind of an understanding.
I'd always be able to talk to him, always be able to go to the office away from everyone else and just talk to him about what I was experiencing or struggling in, or you know, how I was feeling with certain stuff, and like even like different staff members, you know, how stuff was going with them and with me, and you know, it was not saying I was a troublemaker or anything, you know,
but you didn't wait for a crisis to then think, how do I how do I talk about how I'm finding things? You kind of had regular check-ins, didn't you?
Yeah, because Chris was nice enough to be able to be that manager that was working on my side with me, rather than his side against me, you know, or yeah.
Do you remember your code name that you had if you felt stressed? Then that meant he'd come in and help you.
Oh, what was it? I can't think what it was.
Was it Fish? Richard, yeah?
Fish.
Yeah, it was Fish.
No, if I got panicked, I had an emergency word I could go to. That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if I was just freaking out and I couldn't do any more, I was like, oh, Fish.
I remember it was hard to remember the code words to start off with.
Yeah. But that in itself is a great idea. It doesn't have to be, you know, the same per se, but to just have an understanding with your employer of, if demands suddenly tip to becoming too much, what's our plan? How do I step away or get that extra support that's actually between you and them without having to make it a big thing in front of other team members? So it was an understanding you both had, and I think that's a really great tip that others can perhaps use.
Yeah, because when I did say that word as well, Fish, when I said that word, he was straight there, Chris, and he would help out, but he would help out and do my job that I was trying to do, but so fast and so efficient with how he was doing it, because he's used to the work. So he's like, well, what's going out? What's going out? And then he would suss it all out and then just get it all on a plate, get it out and serve it. And you know, it was helpful to have him there doing that, because I couldn't do it as fast as he could do it.
So he helped you kind of catch up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then the other one you mentioned was how you used your therapy team and support around you to often reflect, to debrief, to kind of go back to the employer, to Chris, with ideas. It was helpful whenever I could check in as well with Chris and kind of feedback if there was a particularly difficult shift, so that he was, you know, hearing all sides from that. And open communication, I think, is always helpful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Are there any reflections about how the team perhaps helped?
Yeah, I remember when Richard done some of my close my eyes and think about it time. That's what it's called.
Yeah, like the mindfulness exercises or eyes closed stuff.
So, and you would say about, imagine being in the kitchen, you know, and it being super busy, and you've got a lot on your plate, you've got a lot to do, but then you start to think that you're doing all right with it, and you know what you're at. And so the way you actually spoke to me through doing that was super helpful, actually, because it helped me look at it in a different way. Yeah.
And we tried to bring in some kindness towards yourself as well. You were quite critical of yourself, and
more critical of myself.
Yeah, which a lot of people like that. And so we practice, you know, bringing in a compassionate, kind voice or kind, you know, person to talk to you in those situations. And that was helpful.
Because it was in one sense, we talked about doing those small incremental steps, but each step was very significant, wasn't it? From going, like Richard said, to quite a long gap of being out of work. So being kind that actually you are doing really well, and we were saying how rich the rehab was in those times as well, weren't we? That all the things you were doing was rehab in itself, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And really good. Now, some of the things that you also touched on that was perhaps more of a challenge was around fatigue after a shift. Or do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So after was it 4-hour shifts or 5-hour shifts or 4 hour? Yeah. 8 till 1? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. That's it. Yeah, 1:30. Yeah. So after I'd done I was only doing half-day shifts, you know, but after I'd finished a half-day shift, I'd felt like I'd worked a full day. Because, I mean, the amount of tiredness that set in and how it set in, as soon as I got back to my parents' house, I would go straight to bed. And my mum knew that I would go straight to bed as well, so she would just allow me to go in the door, go upstairs and go to bed. Like, and it was, I'd be asleep in 5-10 minutes of being in bed. But then I tried sleeping just for an hour, because if I slept any longer than an hour, I found that when I woke up, I was not as kind of mind strong straight back to it, if that makes sense. Like, I started coming back and going to sleep for an hour and then getting up and then going to the gym, because that would help.
To kind of
make you feel
restart.
active still,
Yeah.
so I'd still be able to sleep at night that way. Because I found sometimes when I slept, like, I think it was 2 or 3 hours after a shift, then at night I couldn't get to sleep. So then the next day at work it's harder because you haven't slept as well, you know. So it's.
And we were saying with the fatigue, there was the physical fatigue from early mornings and still perhaps going to bed a bit late or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's that physical side of it. But then we were talking about more of the thinking and the cognitive and the attention and all of those things, an onslaught on your mind really in that workplace was tiring.
Yeah. It was definitely all tiring. A whole lot.
And did you find that you just had to come and almost just shut down all those senses?
Yeah. I used to sleep so well after a 5-hour shift. So strange, but I mean, it's where I'm using my mind a lot, and yeah.
And I remember how, you had thoughts, I shouldn't be so tired. It's just half a day. I shouldn't need to have a rest or have a sleep. Whereas actually it was about being kind to yourself, acknowledging that you did need to. It was very demanding for you, early start, lots to concentrate on in the kitchen, and the brain injury was going to make you tired much more easily. And then to do what you really needed to do, what was helpful for you, to have that sleep for an hour.
It's permission giving sometimes, isn't it? Because those should voices push us to perhaps try and push through, and that isn't always helpful, is it?
No.
It catches up with us. And then there'll be an image, I think, on the website that's captured some words that you came out with when you reflect back on your experience and time working there, that I think are really powerful. Self-belief, you learnt new skills, sense of achievement, feeling responsible, more confident, making progress, independence, trying to see here, self-worth, and moving forwards.
I can't read that at all.
It's small. And I think that forwards is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if that talks about that, you were no longer cycling with the same routine or whatever, that there was actually change and beginning to get back on track with something.
Being able to go in and not ask what I needed to do or what I could do, when I didn't have to go in and speak to anyone and just get on with my job, I felt like I was more valuable then. So I'm not giving someone a job trying to find me a job. That makes sense.
So you want to feel like if I'm here to do a job, I'm going to make a difference and do it well.
Yeah. To know I'm there to help out is definitely a good feeling.
You definitely did that.
Poaching eggs was the best thing to do as well, rather than frying, because frying, there was oil everywhere. I mean, it was just the messiest thing I've ever done. But then when you pre-poach an egg, it's the best thing ever, because Chris is boss guy for doing that. he's a very, very, very intelligent bloke for doing that, because you're not frying eggs, you just take it out of the fridge, reheat it, whack it on a plate, it's done. And it's still a good quality poached egg, So
you've learnt some good practical skills as well.
I pre-poach my own eggs now.
And you've learned efficiencies, haven't you? So it's not just doing the job, but it's doing it quicker or in a different way that, it makes it more streamlined. And then there's some really great quotes that you have come up with whenever we've been chatting through your work experience that will be on the page as well. That's really tiny for us to see from here.
No, I can't. I need my glasses for that.
Just going to move it in a bit so we can see. So one here was, going back to work has been amazing. I now feel comfortable where I know what I need to do. So you've explained that really well. You can focus on my area of work, and I've learned all the processes involved. You've explained that greatly as well.
Yeah.
And that feeling valued, that was a big one, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Not just there to tick a box because they were trying to help you, but you want to make a difference back. And you were tired, so you needed that rest, and that was okay. And you learned to kind of build that into your day.
But shorter naps were definitely what helped me, because 2 hours and you don't wake up feeling right and ready for the gym. But an hour and you can.
And you made new friends?
Yes, I did make new friends. Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And just your communication and conversation.
Yeah, being able to feel more confident with how I was talking and what we were doing and stuff, and I was involved more, which was nice. I think at the job as well, I definitely stopped stuttering my words as much.
Definitely. And I think if we go back to that first day when you were having to tell your story and meet new people and introduce, in the kitchen, and we were shown in the back, and obviously I think any of us would have been nervous, and to go from that to then working hard, having a good laugh, going to their team Christmas party, being really part of that family, weren't you?
Yeah, it was good. It's definitely something that helped me out, because I felt like I've got the possibility to be able to go back to a line of work again and do a good job.
And you were always really open from the very beginning about, this is who I am, this is what's happened. And I wonder if that's
probably part of my problem.
No, I think that's a really real strength that you're
being
able
far
to
too honest is it's not always good.
Oh, I think it's a great value.
Well, yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was. Well,
yeah, that's important to you.
Yeah. And then the last one was just trying to keep that balance. Why did that light just switch on?
It's on a timer.
Oh, that was scary. So yeah, you kept a balance of the work, the fitness in the gym, other friends outside of work, family.
My life then actually felt busier than it feels now, which is probably why I don't go to sleep anymore. In the weirdest way, it makes sense though, doesn't it? So I'm not doing as much, I don't need to sleep as much, because I'm not really getting up in the mornings, am I?
Well, maybe it's your day has just shifted later at night and later in the morning again.
That's it.
So at the minute, Mark, you're currently in between. You kind of finished that position, and just talking about it today, does it make you think, oh, I'd like to get cracking and think of other places?
Well, give me confidence in the fact that I will be able to find another job, whatever it might be, and I'll be able to find a routine of what I'm doing, because I've been able to do that with all the jobs that I had before my accident. I've done that with all of those. So, and I had quite a few different jobs. So
you've got a good experience.
But it was always good experience, yeah. Because I mean, working on site was definitely good. Being scared of heights and being up on scaffolding is good for you, believe it or not. But they're the challenges that we all face or will face at some point, and being able to keep faith in yourself and know that what you're going to do is going to help is good. Definitely good.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your story about work and your experience and all the tips, what you've learned. And thank you so much, Jane, for for helping Mark to share this experience.
Yeah, thank you both. Thank you both for all of your help.